joining me on the bench now is Pastor Rob Love at Emmanuel Baptist Church. And he's actually my pastor, so I have to be at my best behavior.
Gladly your pastor.
Right now. And so I want to say a couple things, and then there's a certain direction I want to take you.
Very good.
For a while. But then you can also bring up anything you want.
Okay.
As we go through this. But the first thing that I think is really cool, Rob, is that you have, because I've seen you share it from the pulpit, you have a mindset outside of your own church.
Sure.
So we actually regularly pray for other churches in the community during our morning service.
Right.
All right. Now, why? That's appealing to me.
Okay.
Because I love collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And I see God's kingdom bigger than my little circle.
Yeah.
So can you share a little bit why as a pastor who has to be focused on his large congregation,
yeah,
have a view like that?
Yeah, broad.
Can you help me with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I hear you ask that question, I would give two answers. One is because we don't want to let ourselves accidentally fall into isolation. We want to continually be mindful that we have brothers and sisters, fellow churches that are doing similar gospel work. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I want to remind the congregation that the work at hand can't all be done by us. So one thing that comes to my mind is our church also engages, we hope actively, in foster care. And it just so happens that there are between 350,000 and 400,000 children in foster care. In the country, 350 to 400,000. And if you were to just Google how many churches are in the United States, it's estimated between 340 and 400,000. Right. So our church can't engage 400,000 foster children. But our church praying for other churches can remind we do our part and those churches do their part. And Lord willing, something like 350,000 churches could care for 350,000 foster children. So as it comes to homelessness, which I think is related, it's important for us to remind our church that we're not in this alone, because as we hope to increase, well, I'm going to get to something later about quantity and quality. Okay. We'll get to that later.
Okay, excellent. So the other thing that I really want the people listening to understand about Emmanuel Baptist Church is when we've talked about our program and our curriculum a couple times, we talked about a curriculum that we call Jobs for Life, right, which is a big part of our program. And this is a volunteer-led evening class. And it just so happens that our whole volunteer team for Jobs for Life, all the facilitators are from Emmanuel Baptist Church.
Right.
So can you talk through kind of how that happened?
Yeah. Well, I can. I mean, I could say, first of all, I guess it would have to go back to when our pastoral staff first met you and identified from hearing your vision for the mission and its balance between compassionate, humanitarian help and the message of Jesus Christ. And so having that balance, that it couldn't be all one, it couldn't be all the other, I think was our initial enthusiasm. Then that enthusiasm among our church leadership, then one of our elders at church is a board member. Another member of our church is a board member. And so I think it kind of grew from the enthusiasm we had at a leadership level. And then the people of the church. One of the things we try to minimize is the work of the church through programs. Mm-hmm. And so we don't necessarily schedule, the second Thursday of every month is the Bridge Street Mission night. But we do try to encourage people as they leave church to go out on commission and be active. And I think what you're describing is people doing just that. They're engaging with community, and it's not necessarily something we put on our church calendar, but it is something we try to encourage and we're joyful about, and it seems like it's having some fruit, which is wonderful.
Yes. Okay. Good. All right. So I'll get to the kind of the main thing that I want to spend most of our time on, if we can. So,
Okay.
like I said, he's my pastor. I attend Emmanuel Baptist Church. I'm not the most faithful person attending.
You work a lot of Sundays.
And part of that is I value connecting with other churches
Right.
in the community.
Right. Your wife's a much better church attender than
Yes,
you are. So
right, yes. But I want to assure you, it's not a hard issue
that's right.
with me. So actually, in my previous church in Pennsylvania, I don't know if I told you this story or not, but I showed up at the church because I did the same model.
Yes.
You know, when I was in Pennsylvania, so I got to get to these other churches and learn what God's doing there,
Yep,
and
right.
be connected and have
Right.
the ministry connected. And so when I remember going to church once after I had been a few, and the pastor's wife came up to me and she gave, "Oh, it's so great to see you in church,"
Oh, yeah.
and everything like that. And I think, oh, she thinks I'm the prodigal husband that his wife and kids are in church every week, and I'm off playing golf or something like that.
right,
you know.
right.
So she ended up on my advisory board.
Yes,
so
she understood.
we converted her.
You will real often
Reverend.
tell me, I'll see you during the week and say, where are you going to be, that you will be with us? Because I know that you, part of your job is that you do travel and spend time with other churches, sometimes promoting the mission and sometimes just building relationship.
Yes, yeah, so good.
So we understand.
Yes. So, anyway, so when I've been there, and I've actually hit a lot of this series. And
Yes.
partially that is our transportation issue right now is kind of weird. So
Okay.
if my daughter's going to get to church,
Okay.
I've got to get to church and not visit another church. So
right.
I'm slacking on that responsibility.
Okay.
But I'm in church more often.
Okay.
But we've been in 1st and 2nd Timothy.
Yeah.
And one of the themes that I've kept hearing, all right, which I thought applied really nicely to rescue missions.
Yes.
Because I'm 42 years now in
Yeah.
to rescue mission
Right.
ministry, which is just about the same. I'm married to my wife 42 years too. So
Yeah.
I've been at least faithful to a couple things,
That's good.
you know, in my life. But one of the things I really enjoyed is that there's a tension in the Bible
Yep.
with preaching the gospel
Right.
and caring for people.
That's right.
And my experience over the years in a lot of different churches, some churches get so excited about the one
Yeah.
and totally leave out the
Yeah.
other.
Yep. Yep.
All right.
And they're both there.
Yeah,
Yep.
and others do the one and totally forget the other.
Yep.
You know, and
Yep.
so First Timothy, where we've been,
Right.
really you've brought that out like 3 or 4 times.
Right.
Kind of that those things are both kind of taught. So can you
Right.
without teaching the whole
Yeah.
book, can you kind of share the
Yeah, I would say you used the word tension. And it is a tension. For example, Jesus would say, what shall man gain if he has the world but loses his soul? So what if we housed everyone? What if we fed everyone but never shared the words of life with them and they lost their soul? On the other hand, what if you see a neighbor in need and you say, be warmed and filled, and you walk away having not helped? That's an indictment, right, to the Christian community. So you see that tension. There must be a, here is a meal, but there can't just be a, here's food without the bread of life. So that tension is absolutely there. This is where I wanted to comment before about quality and quantity. And that's what's been pressing on my heart as I've been going through this section. We're in 1 Timothy the last few weeks, chapter 5 and 6. And it starts with 2 verses in chapter 5 that say, these people ought to be to you as family. So there's supposed to be this extraordinary benevolent care like family. So he gives this picture of family. Treat the elderly like they're your father, and treat elderly women like they're your mother. And then he starts going into the list of who some of those people might be that are marginalized or in risk. And the first on the list is widows. Women who in the first century are at great risk. And the Lord wants his church to be mindful of them. And so one of the things we draw out of it is there is a call to treat that woman in her risk, in her danger, as though she's your mom. I mean, think about that, right? Think of any of us who have ever had parents who age. We know that that's a responsibility. Now God takes that and says, now picture this woman over here in need like that.
Yes.
That is an intense commitment
Yeah. Can I
to
cut
care.
in one
Yes,
second
please,
here? So
please.
this has played out for us as we've served men.
Right.
So quite honestly, raising money to take care of men
Yeah.
is a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
sometimes you get the mindset, he's a man,
Yeah.
he should buck up,
Yep.
get a job, take
Western
care of
men. Yep. Yep.
it. But when you look at the man
Right.
and realize that this man is somebody's son,
Right.
somebody's spouse, somebody's brother, and often somebody's father.
Right.
And all of a sudden that man
Yeah.
is looked at with a little more compassion and care.
Family. Yeah.
Yes, because it's family.
Yeah,
So
yep.
that's very,
Yeah.
very similar to what you were
Right.
just saying there.
Right. And so the thing I find that's interesting, and I'm really comfortable with a dialogue on this. So I'm going to say it in my pastor context, and then we'll evolve it through
Yep.
our shared
Just
experience.
not allowed to preach.
Yeah. No.
Because it's
You're not, or
conversation.
I'm not.
Neither of us.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
yeah.
it's
Yeah. Right.
It's conversation on the bench.
Right. But I'm going to talk about quality and quantity.
Yes.
I'm going to talk about the call to do something that it's really life and death. So what we see, the invitation is to really give survival. What I feel is that survival isn't going to be our church to the world, right? It's going to be here's our opportunity right here, and it might be small. That's the quantity.
Right.
So it might not be the world that we can reach with our means, but there might be someone down the road whose life can be changed with our means.
Right.
So I think that's where there's something that seems disconnected, even in church relationship in its community, the way a church is in its community. We get this thought, well, there's so much need. How will we ever meet all that need? And I think the thing that I'm being impressed by, even as we look and walk through Sundays together, the thing I'm impressed by is there's a call to really focus, to see clearly who's your neighbor, right? And I think then the project, first of all, it's personal. Now it has a face, and I think it's manageable. It goes back a little bit to that foster care. When you think every church doesn't have to solve the foster care need of 350,000 foster children, but if every church engaged with one, you have a lot of solution. So that's where I think what we're seeing, that's what the quality versus quantity. I think there's a burden for everyone to just put money into a bucket, and that money will be spread unimaginably thin to go as far as it can go. And I would like to cast a vision for our community where there's more, it's more personal, it's more, this is where we're going, this is who we're going to help, this is a person we're going to treat like a mother or a father. And Bridge Street has been a big help in giving us access and thoughtfulness of where those people are. So that's the part. It's the quantity quality. That's the part I want to say. I want to do a lot of difference for someone, rather than a little difference for everyone. Okay, so that's what I want to say, and I want to invite you to push back on the areas where you want to round those corners.
No, I think that's
Okay.
absolutely true.
Okay.
And I like kind of what you alluded to there a little bit. Well, you didn't allude to it. You kind of said it. Is that, if I can bring it out here, is that and I want to go back to our founding story. This has
Great.
come up 3 times already with
Okay.
this.
Okay.
Because often we think the needs are so great.
Right.
What can one person do?
Right.
What can one family do? Or as you kind of lean, what can one church do?
Right.
You know, and our founding, you really kind of know the story. It was a one family.
Yep. Feeding lunches. Yeah.
And they went down and cooked under the bridge.
Right.
And out of that, now by next spring, we're going to be having a facility that's doing emergency shelter, an outreach center meal program, and 2 recovery centers.
Yes, men's,
All
women's.
because
Yes.
that one
At lunch,
family
Yep.
just focused on
Right.
what they
And how long's that been
could
from
do.
then to now? When would that have?
9 years.
9 years.
Yes. So we're still
Goodness.
pre-adolescent.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
All right.
That's a lot of growth. Yeah.
Yes. So, and when I describe being pre-adolescent, we're in a fast growth spurt,
Yeah.
as like 9-year-olds are,
Right.
and we make a bunch of mistakes,
Some growing pains.
like 9-year-olds do, and we're a little uncoordinated,
Yeah. Yeah.
like 9-year-olds
Right.
are, and so that's where we are as a ministry,
Right.
And yet we've been entrusted with a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're excited about it. And really, churches are, and one of the things I have you on the bench is really, I hope that people in churches out there
Right.
can kind of get a feel of, well, okay, how can my church engage
Right.
in helping people?
Yeah.
So we've already mentioned a couple things. We mentioned, obviously, your involvement with Jobs for Life, but you mentioned the foster care. Can you
Right.
delve a little more about what is our church doing
Okay.
when it comes to foster care?
Sure. I can. I think it's connected. So yeah, that's fine. So our church, I think it's important to give all people bite-sized pieces, right? So about 7 years ago, the burden to do more in foster care really came out of the book of James. We were studying the Bible together, and book of James says true religion is to show compassion on the fatherless and the widow, people who are marginalized and people who are not going to repay you for your kindness. To do that is an expression of what religion really is.
That's
okay?
a great way of saying it,
Okay.
because you had the examples of the fatherless and widows,
Right.
but it really applies to
Yes.
a broader
All those
segment of
people where there's not going to be a reciprocation of good. I'm going to do this for you, so you do this for me. We do that a lot in life. That's not going to happen with the homeless or the fatherless or widows. And so out of that study, we said we could do more. We got in touch with some agencies that could help us think through that. One of them here in Wisconsin, we had a banquet, and we said everyone who thinks that you might be able to engage the foster care need, attend the banquet. And then at the banquet, we of course inform and then give everyone an opportunity to engage in one of two things, either to become a foster family, which our family did through that, or to become a foster family care group, which a lot of people did. A lot of people look at this situation and say, I can't do that, but I can help the people who do that. So our family started doing foster care, and our family is surrounded by 5 families that care for us and supply for us and pray for us and offer transportation and babysitting and meals and all sorts of things. And what we've seen is that the foster care burnout rate, which is about 1 year, has drastically changed when you surround a foster family with care. And we don't just do that in our own congregation. We currently offer care groups for people outside of our church too who are doing foster care. So we want them to stay engaged, and so we put a care group around them of people from our church. Yeah, so the foster care, it's just such a clear example. I mean, the way the numbers work out, it has to be more than coincidence. I think we're supposed to conclude something. 350,000 foster children, 350,000 churches. I just think the bite-sized pieces. Let's take someone.
Now, you're not the only family in our church. that's
No,
doing foster.
several. Yeah.
So several is
Well, it ebbs and flows a little bit. So some families like ours, our foster care turned into an unexpected adoption. And so when that happened, we had to take a little while and go, okay, let's get this settled before we engage again. So it goes up and down. I would say about 7 foster homes at any time in our church.
Wow, that's more than I
7.
thought.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of those have turned into adoptions. Some of those are still active, and some are waiting for the next placement.
Yeah. Your church has also jumped aboard our On Track campaign.
Yeah.
Can you really talk about the motivation behind that and how that kind of happened and why?
Yeah. I think it comes from a couple things. When you come to town to work with Bridge Street, I get a phone call from a mutual friend who is with the police department. He says, you need to meet the new director. And so myself and another pastor from our church sat down and had lunch with you. and hearing your vision for what you wanted to see the mission do gave us a liberty to get engaged. We weren't apprehensive about engagement. We knew our engagement with that vision was not going to in any way compromise that tension you talked about.
Yes.
Do good to all people. Yet what good is there apart from eternal life ultimately? Okay, so we weren't going to compromise that, hearing the vision you had. So that gives us enthusiasm, without reservation. And then the Lord has blessed our church with the opportunity to get involved through some things that have come into our stewardship. And so your most recent capital campaign, the church gladly engaged in, because the mission at Bridge Street and the mission we have are compatible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's address maybe other pastors out there.
Okay.
And I want to bring this up about Emmanuel too. Again, this is part of that vision. Often one of our elders isn't at church,
Yeah.
but they're not being unfaithful like I am.
Right.
They're actually off at another church.
Right.
So obviously Emmanuel has a vision for supporting and helping other churches.
Absolutely. It's a partnership. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So again, that's very commendable and very happy for that. But if there would be another pastor listening, or someone in a congregation who's on an elder board or something like that,
Right.
what would be your advice to them as far as if they want to make a difference for people who are in crisis in our community? How should they do that? Now, we landed in your congregation.
Yeah.
So we were very convenient.
Yes.
All right.
Right.
But how would you direct maybe another church as far as, hey, we resonate with that. We
Right.
resonate with, hey, we can't do everything, but we can do a little bit. What kind of advice would you give a person in a church?
I think that's a really good question, and I do think the advice I would give comes to mind as you ask it. I think at some leadership level, there has to be first-person interaction with the opportunity. If that pastor, church leader, whatever it may be, chairman, whatever position that might be, if that person engages in first-person interaction with the opportunity, it might be you and the mission. It might be. I think more likely it's going to be seeing the need in the people that need to be helped. For example, what do we call the cold?
Community on call.
Community on call.
Yeah.
Community on call. We have probably 8 to 10 people from our church who have volunteered. We just happened to draw some really cold weeks this year.
Yes. Yes. Just so you know, Ty's on his way here.
Is he?
Yes,
Okay.
He's supposed to be the next interview.
Yeah, and Ty.
So we have to talk until he gets there. by the way.
Ty gives hands and feet to a lot of that, and
Yeah.
I was part of Ty's team. And I think I would say to a church leader, like, just for a little, put yourself in the interactions. That's what I would say.
Okay.
And if you can walk away from the interactions and go, that's not for our church, okay. But I don't think it'll be that way. And the reason I say that, I've had an opportunity a few times to travel to the mission field and see the missionaries we support and what they're doing. And every single time I've come back from those engagements, a champion of supporting those missionaries.
Okay.
Because I saw it, right? If a picture's worth 1,000 words, then how much is 4 or 5 days living with a missionary
Yes.
worth?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what I would say. Put your shoes where they are and see in first person the engagement. And then if you walk away and say that's not the direction we're going to go, then so be it. But I think it won't go that way. I think you'll start seeing and you'll become an advocate for that opportunity for your church to engage. That's what I would say.
All right. Do you have any questions for me or anything you want to pour into me or into our ministry that we can say publicly?
Yeah, right. I would say this. First of all, I think this is an amusing tidbit of information. You were actually, your daughter had come over and was spending some time with my girls, and you had come over to pick her up, and we were visiting. We were sitting in our living room, and you mentioned this event in front of your wife for the first time in my living room. And she said, you're doing what?
That's her memory of that.
Okay. All right. Well, we won't get into that. But I was amused that at that moment she was she was at least in her recollection saying, "Wait, you're going to be spending 24 hours on a bench."
Yes. Yes. So yeah.
So that was an amusing story. But that,
All right, so
I would spin that to say, the way that our family does. I am a pastor vocationally, but that affects all of our family.
Yes.
And you are director of mission, but that affects all of your family. And I hear the way that your wife and your kids get involved with mission and the support and the things they do. And I think that speaks to the fact that this is not only a vocation for you. While it is vocational, it is also a conviction for you. I think you have that burden, which only further encourages me to continue to support you as you do those things, and our church sent your way. So that's I guess that's the personal note I would say.
Yeah. So good. Yeah. She wasn't the biggest fan of this because she knows how I was like, it's been a long time since I've done an all-nighter.
Yeah.
We used to do those with kids in youth ministry.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Well,
So
if it makes you feel any better, about an hour ago, I said to my wife, I'm going to have to go soon. I'm going to go have a conversation with Craig on a bench. And she didn't know until an hour ago.
Oh, okay. Okay.
What's good for the goose?
Yes. Yeah. So that's good.